Years passed, and life on Earth continued much as it always had. The debate over the mysterious genetic sequence eventually faded from public attention, though whispers of its existence lingered in scientific circles. Humanity carried on, facing challenges with the same resilience that had baffled Kale, Lyra, and Joran during their time on the planet. For most people, the aliens' visit became just another story, a brief moment of wonder in an ever-changing world. On their home planet, the three alien med students reflected often on their journey. Though they had returned to their studies and daily routines, Earth remained a vivid memory, a place that had changed them in ways they hadn't anticipated. They found themselves looking at their own species differently, questioning their pursuit of perfection, and wondering if there was value in embracing imperfection instead. One evening, as they gathered in the same garden, where they had discussed their choices so many times before, a new message arrived. It wasn't from Earth this time, but from the Galactic Medical Council. The Council had been monitoring human activity closely, as requested, and had observed something remarkable. Despite the chaos and uncertainty of their lives, humans were thriving, not because of technological advances or genetic enhancements, but because of their ability to adapt and connect. Kale read the report aloud, his voice filled with quiet awe. They faced disasters, diseases, and conflicts, yet they keep finding ways to rebuild. Their emotions, their relationships, their communities, it's all part of what keeps them going. Lyra smiled softly. That's what we saw when we were there. Humans don't need us to fix them. They already have everything they need inside them. Joran nodded thoughtfully. And maybe that's the real lesson. Not just for us, but for every species out there. Strength isn't about being invincible. It's about surviving together, supporting each other, even when things are hard. The Council's observations confirmed what the team had suspected all along. Humanity's greatest asset wasn't hidden in their DNA or buried in ancient myths. It was in their spirit, their refusal to give up, no matter how dire the circumstances. This realization brought a sense of peace to the aliens. They had come to Earth seeking answers, but in the end, they had found something far more valuable: understanding. As the years went by, the story of the alien med students spread across their planet, inspiring others to rethink their views on strength and survival. Scientists began studying not just biology, but also the role of emotion and community in resilience. Philosophers wrote essays about the beauty of imperfection, drawing parallels between humanity and other species. Slowly but surely, the lessons of Earth began to shape a new way of thinking. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Carter occasionally looked up at the stars, wondering if the aliens ever thought of them. She didn't know about the Council's observations or the impact their visit had made across the galaxy. All she knew was that humanity had once again proven its ability to endure, and that was enough. For Kale, Lyra, and Joran, the memory of Earth never faded. They had gone seeking a mystery, only to discover that the answer lay not in science, but in the heart of what it meant to be alive. As they stood together beneath the twin moons, gazing at the distant speck of blue light that marked Earth's location, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Do you think they'll ever figure it out?" Lyra asked quietly. "That secret inside them." Kale shook his head. "Maybe someday. But until then, they'll keep surviving, keep fighting, keep hoping. That's who they are." "And maybe," Joran added with a smile, "that's exactly how it should be." In the vastness of space, countless worlds spun silently, each one unique in its struggles and triumphs. But among them, Earth shone brightly, a reminder that even in imperfection, there is beauty, and even in fragility, there is strength. And somewhere, watching from afar, three aliens smiled, knowing they had been lucky enough to witness the miracle of humanity firsthand. Months passed after the alien med students returned to their home planet. The Council had accepted their report, though some members remained curious about the specifics of human resilience. Kale, Lyra, and Joran, tried to move on with their lives, but memories of Earth lingered in their thoughts. They often found themselves revisiting the lessons they had learned, lessons about imperfection, emotion, and the unyielding will to survive. One evening, as the three gathered in a quiet garden under the pale glow of their planet's twin moons, Cale broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice?" he asked, his voice soft but heavy with reflection. Lara tilted her head, her luminous eyes shimmering faintly. "Of course I do. But then I remember Rachel's words, that humans don't need to be fixed. They're already whole, even with their flaws." Joran nodded slowly. "And Alex, he reminded us that strength isn't about being perfect. It's about fighting through the hard parts, even when it hurts." Their conversation drifted to the broader implications of their discovery. They had uncovered something extraordinary, a hidden mechanism within human DNA that allowed them to heal and adapt in ways no other species could. Yet, instead of unlocking its full potential, they had chosen to let it remain untouched. Was that truly the best path? Cale leaned back against a smooth stone bench, his long fingers tracing patterns on its surface. Maybe the real lesson wasn't about the sequence at all. Maybe it was about respect, for life, for individuality, for the unknown. Lyra smiled faintly. Humans taught us that sometimes not knowing everything is okay. Their mystery is part of what makes them special. As they spoke, a distant hum filled the air. A message from Earth had arrived, relayed through the intergalactic communication network. The aliens exchanged puzzled glances before activating the transmission. On the screen appeared Dr. Emily Carter, her face lined with both exhaustion and determination. "Hello," she began, her tone serious. "I hope this message finds you well. Things here have been complicated since your departure. The debate over your research hasn't died down. Some groups are pushing to recreate your experiments, convinced they can harness the sequence safely. Others argue that doing so would destroy what makes us human." Cale frowned. "We destroyed all our data. How can they recreate it?" Emily sighed. "You underestimated human curiosity and greed. Fragments of your work were leaked, enough for certain factions to piece together partial theories. They're moving quickly, and I'm afraid of what might happen if they succeed." The weight of her words settled heavily on the trio. They had hoped their decision to erase their findings would protect humanity, but now they realized their actions might not have been enough. Humanity's greatest strength, its relentless drive to explore and innovate, was also its greatest risk. "What can we do?" Lyra asked, her voice tinged with urgency. Emily hesitated before responding. "Tell your council the truth. Explain why humanity's essence must remain unchanged. If anyone can convince them to intervene, it's you." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Returning to Earth wasn't an option. They had promised to leave humanity to chart its own course. But perhaps there was another way to help. That night, they drafted a formal appeal to the Galactic Medical Council, urging them to monitor Earth closely and prevent any attempts to exploit the genetic sequence. In the end, their plea was heard. The Council agreed to send observers to ensure that humanity's unique qualities remained preserved. Though the aliens couldn't directly interfere, they took solace in knowing they had done everything in their power to protect the fragile yet resilient species they had come to admire. As they gazed once more at the stars, Cale whispered, "They'll be all right, won't they?" Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "They always are. That's what makes them human." And with that, the three sat in silence, their hearts connected across the vastness of space to the tiny blue planet spinning silently in the distance. The day of departure arrived sooner than anyone expected. Cale, Lyra, and Joran stood in the lab one last time, their glowing forms casting faint light across the room. The air felt heavy with the weight of their decision. They had spent weeks unraveling humanity's secrets, only to conclude that some mysteries were better left unsolved. Now, as they prepared to leave Earth, they couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and relief. Dr. Emily Carter joined them for a final meeting. Her expression was calm but tinged with emotion. "You've learned a lot during your time here," she said softly. "Not just about humans, but about yourselves." Cale nodded, his large eyes reflecting the dim light. "We came here to study resilience, but we ended up learning about something deeper, about spirit, about choice. Humans don't survive because of biology alone. It's because of how they face challenges, how they refuse to give up." Emily smiled faintly. "And what will you take back with you? What will you tell your people?" Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "We'll tell them that humans are special, not because they're perfect, but because they're imperfect. They fight, they fail, and yet they keep going. That's their strength." Joran added, "And we'll remind them that knowledge isn't always meant to be used. Sometimes it's enough just to understand." The team worked quickly to dismantle their equipment and erase all traces of their research. Files were deleted, notes shredded, and samples destroyed. It was a bittersweet process, knowing they were giving up years of hard work, but they also knew it was the right thing to do. Humanity's future depended on leaving its essence intact. Before leaving, they invited Rachel and Alex to say goodbye. Both had become close to the aliens during their stay, offering insights into the human experience that no experiment could replicate. Rachel hugged each of them awkwardly, her arms barely reaching around their tall, slender frames. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "for seeing us for who we really are." Alex nodded, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "I don't know if I can forgive what happened, but I get why you did it. Just don't forget what you learned here." As the aliens boarded their ship, they took one last look at the world they had come to admire. The city lights twinkled below, a reminder of humanity's enduring spirit. For all their flaws, humans had shown an incredible capacity to adapt, to heal, and to hope. It was a lesson the aliens would carry with them forever. The journey home was quiet. Each of them sat lost in thought, replaying moments from their time on Earth. Cal remembered Rachel's courage, the way she spoke of warmth spreading through her body during her recovery. Lyra recalled Alex's determination, his refusal to let pain define him. And Joran thought of the countless stories they'd heard from survivors, each one a testament to the power of the human heart. When they finally reached their home planet, the Galactic Medical Council awaited them eagerly. The aliens presented their findings, emphasizing not the science, but the philosophy behind humanity's resilience. Humans survive because of their will to live, Cale explained. Their emotions, their connections to others. It's what makes them strong. If we try to change that, we risk losing what makes them unique. The council listened intently, their expressions thoughtful. Though some members pressed for more details, Cale, Lyra, and Joran remained firm in their decision to withhold the specifics of their research. "Some things are sacred," Lyra said simply. "This is one of them." In the days that followed, the aliens found themselves changed by their experience. They had set out to solve a mystery, but instead, they had discovered something far greater, the beauty of imperfection. As they looked up at the stars, they knew they would never forget the fragile yet unbreakable species they had come to respect. Earth continued to spin silently in the vastness of space, its people unaware of the impact they had made on 3 alien med students. Life went on as usual, filled with struggles and triumphs, failures and hopes. And perhaps that was the greatest miracle of all, that even without answers, humanity kept moving forward, one step at a time. Word of Cal's secret experiment spread quickly, despite his efforts to keep it hidden. Someone at the lab had overheard Alex talking about the strange changes he'd experienced, and soon rumors began circulating. By the next morning, news outlets were reporting on the story, speculating about alien interference and secret experiments designed to make humans superhuman. The public reaction was swift and intense. Some people were excited by the idea of unlocking humanity's full potential. Online forums buzzed with discussions about immortality, enhanced strength, and the possibility of eradicating diseases forever. Others were terrified, fearing that tampering with human biology could lead to unintended consequences, loss of identity, uncontrollable mutations, or even the creation of a new class of superhumans who might dominate the rest of society. Amid the chaos, Dr. Emily Carter confronted the team. Her face was pale, her voice tight with anger. "What were you thinking?" she demanded, her eyes fixed on Kel. "You've put all of us in danger, not just your team, but everyone involved in this project." Cale lowered his head, shame washing over him. "I thought I could help. I didn't mean for things to go so wrong." "It's not just about what went wrong," Emily snapped. "It's about trust. You betrayed the principles we agreed on when this study began. Humans aren't lab rats. You can't just experiment on them whenever you feel like it." Lyra stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "We understand now that we made a mistake, but isn't it worth considering the good that could come from our research? If we can find a way to heal without causing harm, wouldn't that be worth the risk?" Emily shook her head. "That's not your decision to make. This is bigger than any one person or species. Once this kind of knowledge gets out, there's no turning back. People will use it however they see fit, whether it's for healing or for power." The debate spilled into the public arena as scientists, ethicists, and politicians weighed in on the issue. Some argued that the discovery of the genetic sequence represented an opportunity to revolutionize medicine and extend human life. Others warned that playing with such fundamental aspects of biology could destroy the very essence of humanity. Rachel Meyer, who had become close to the team during their research, found herself at the center of the controversy. Reporters hounded her for interviews, asking if she believed humans should embrace the aliens' findings. When she finally agreed to speak publicly, her words carried weight. "I've seen firsthand how strong humans can be," Rachel said during a televised interview. "But our strength doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from fighting through imperfection, from feeling pain and fear, and still choosing to keep going. If we lose that, we lose ourselves." Her speech resonated deeply with many, sparking a global conversation about the value of human fragility. For every person who dreamed of living forever, there was another who saw beauty in the fleeting nature of life. Back at the lab, the team struggled to decide their next move. They knew they couldn't undo what had been done, but they could choose how to respond. Joran broke the silence one evening, his voice heavy with emotion. "Maybe we don't need to unlock every secret. Maybe some things are better left alone." Cale nodded slowly. "Humans have survived for thousands of years without us. They don't need us to fix them. They just need us to respect them." In the end, the team reached an unanimous decision. They would destroy their research notes and data, ensuring that no one could misuse their findings. It was a painful choice, but they realized it was the only way to protect humanity's future and its soul. As they packed up their equipment and prepared to leave Earth, Cale glanced one last time at the bustling city outside the window. Humans were flawed, fragile, and unpredictable, but that was exactly what made them extraordinary. And perhaps, he thought, that was something even aliens could learn from. The team's decision to focus on understanding the natural effects of the genetic sequence instead of forcing it to activate artificially brought a sense of calm to their work. But curiosity still burned brightly in their minds, especially Cal's. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were close to something groundbreaking, something that could change not just human lives, but the way all species viewed survival. One day, while reviewing data from their experiments, Cale noticed something unusual. In a few cases, the sequence seemed to remain active longer than expected, even after the initial stress or injury had passed. These individuals reported feeling stronger, faster, and more alert than before. Their bodies weren't just healing, they were improving. "Look at this," Cale said, pointing to the screen where the data was displayed. Lyra and Joran gathered around, their glowing eyes scanning the information. "These people aren't just recovering, they're evolving." Lyra frowned. "Evolving?" You mean the sequence is making them better than they were before? It's possible, Cale replied. Maybe this isn't just about healing. Maybe it's about adaptation, an upgrade built into their DNA. Joran leaned back, his expression thoughtful. If that's true, then humans aren't just surviving. They're becoming something stronger, more resilient. The idea fascinated them, but it also raised concerns. What would happen if the sequence stayed active permanently? Would these individuals lose part of what made them human, their vulnerability, their connection to others? Or would they simply become a new version of humanity, one better suited to face the challenges of their world? Cale knew they needed to test this theory carefully. Without telling Dr. Emily Carter, he decided to conduct a small, secret experiment. He chose Alex, the firefighter, as his subject. Alex had already shown remarkable resilience, and Cale believed he could handle the changes the sequence might bring. Late one night, Cale administered a controlled dose of a compound designed to amplify the sequence. At first, the results were astonishing. Alex's scars began to fade, his energy levels soared, and his reflexes became sharper. He felt like a new person, invigorated and unstoppable. But soon, side effects emerged. Alex started experiencing bursts of uncontrollable anger, his emotions swinging wildly from joy to rage. He struggled to sleep, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quiet. Worst of all, he began feeling a strange hunger, not for food, but for something deeper, something he couldn't explain. Cale watched with growing unease as Alex's condition worsened. He realized too late that activating the sequence artificially disrupted its natural balance. The very thing that made humans special, their ability to heal without losing themselves, was being overwritten by the forced changes. Desperate to fix his mistake, Cale called Lyra and Joran to the lab. Together, they worked tirelessly to reverse the process, neutralizing the compound and calming Alex's overactive system. It took hours, but eventually, Alex stabilized. Exhausted and shaken, he looked at Cale with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "What did you do to me?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry," Cale said, his tone heavy with guilt. "I thought I could help. I didn't understand the risks." Alex nodded slowly. "You need to be careful. Humans aren't meant to be perfect. We're supposed to struggle, to fight for what we have. That's what makes life worth living." The incident left the team shaken. They realized they had crossed a line, tampering with forces they didn't fully understand. From that moment on, they vowed to approach their research with greater caution, respecting the delicate balance that made humans who they were. As they cleaned up the lab, Lyra spoke softly. "We wanted to unlock the secret of why humans won't die. But maybe the real answer is simpler than we thought. They survive because they choose to, not because of some hidden code, but because of who they are." Cale nodded, his heart heavy but wiser. For the first time, he understood that humanity's strength wasn't in their biology. It was in their spirit. And that was something no experiment could ever replicate. The team's experiments began to reveal more about the mysterious genetic sequence, but each new discovery only deepened the ethical dilemmas they faced. Cale, Lyra, and Joran spent long nights in the lab, their minds racing with possibilities. If they could isolate and amplify the sequence, they might unlock the secret to extending human life, or even creating beings who could survive almost anything. But at what cost? Dr. Emily Carter grew increasingly uneasy as she watched the aliens dive deeper into their research. One evening, after a particularly intense session, she pulled them aside. Her voice was calm but firm. "You're getting closer to something powerful," she said. "But have you thought about what happens if this falls into the wrong hands? Or if it changes humans in ways we can't control?" Cale tilted his head, his glowing eyes reflecting the soft light of the lab. "We understand your concerns, Doctor. But isn't it worth exploring? Humans already possess this ability naturally. All we're doing is trying to understand it better." "It's not that simple," Emily replied. "What you're dealing with isn't just science. It's humanity itself. Changing how people live and die could alter everything about who they are. Lyra frowned, her delicate fingers tracing the edge of a notebook. But don't humans want to live longer? To be stronger, healthier? Isn't that why they study medicine and build technology? Of course, Emily admitted. But there's a difference between improving life and playing God. You need to ask yourselves, are you helping humans, or are you changing them into something else entirely? The aliens fell silent, weighing her words. They had come to admire humanity's resilience and spirit, but they couldn't ignore the potential of their discovery. Joran broke the silence, his tone hesitant. What if we focus on using this knowledge to heal, not to change? To help people recover faster without altering who they are? Emily nodded slowly. That's a good starting point. But remember, once this information is out there, you won't have control over how it's used. Others might see it differently. The conversation lingered in their minds as they continued their work. The next day, they decided to take a step back from the experiments and focus on understanding the broader implications of their findings. They invited Rachel Meyer and Alex to join them for a discussion, hoping to gain insight from those who had experienced the effects of the sequence firsthand. Rachel listened quietly as the team explained their dilemma. When they finished, she spoke softly. I think you're asking the wrong question. It's not about whether you should use this knowledge. It's about why you want to. If your goal is to help people, then maybe it's worth the risk. But if you're doing it just because you can, that's different. Alex nodded in agreement. Humans are messy. We make mistakes, we hurt each other, but we also find ways to fix things. Maybe the real challenge isn't figuring out how to make us stronger. It's learning to live with our flaws. Her words struck a chord with the aliens. For all their advanced technology and knowledge, they realized they still had much to learn about the complexity of human nature. Cale looked at his teammates, his expression thoughtful. Maybe we've been focusing too much on the science and not enough on the people behind it. Lyra smiled faintly. Humans are more than their biology. Their strength comes from their hearts, not just their bodies. Over the next few days, the team shifted their approach. Instead of rushing to unlock the full potential of the sequence, they began documenting its natural effects, studying how it worked in harmony with human emotions and experiences. They realized that forcing the sequence to activate artificially might disrupt the delicate balance that made humans unique. As they worked, Cale often found himself gazing out the window at the bustling city below. Humans went about their lives, unaware of the secrets hidden within them. He felt a deep sense of respect for their fragility and determination, their ability to rise above challenges without losing their humanity. For now, the team agreed to keep their findings contained, sharing only what was necessary to aid healing without risking unintended consequences. They knew their journey was far from over, but they also understood that some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved, for the sake of preserving the very essence of what made humans extraordinary. The team's discovery of the strange genetic sequence sent a wave of excitement through the lab, but it also raised new questions. What exactly was this hidden code, and how did it work? Cale, Lyra, and Joran spent hours discussing possibilities, their voices buzzing with energy as they pieced together theories. Dr. Emily Carter joined them, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. This sequence, it's like nothing we've seen before, Joran said, pointing to the glowing lines on the screen. It's almost like a dormant switch inside human DNA. But what activates it? Cale leaned back in his chair, his long fingers tapping thoughtfully against the table. From what we've observed, it seems to turn on during extreme situations, when someone is injured, sick, or under intense emotional stress. Maybe it's a survival mechanism that evolved over thousands of years. Lyra nodded slowly. If that's true, then humans aren't just resilient by chance. Their bodies are designed to adapt and heal when they need to most. Emily crossed her arms, her brow furrowed. But why does it only activate in some people and not others? And what happens if we try to trigger it artificially? The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. They knew experimenting with human biology was risky, but the potential benefits were too significant to ignore. After much debate, they decided to move forward cautiously, focusing on controlled tests to understand how the sequence functioned. Their first step was to recreate the conditions that seemed to activate the code naturally. With Emily's guidance, they recruited volunteers who had shown signs of resilience in the past, including Rachel Meyer and Alex, the firefighter. The team exposed them to carefully monitored simulations of physical and emotional stress while tracking changes in their bodies. In one session, Rachel was asked to recall the moment she survived the house fire. As she spoke, sensors attached to her skin detected subtle shifts in her cellular activity. Her heart rate increased, and her body temperature rose slightly, signs that the mysterious sequence was beginning to awaken. The same pattern emerged when Alex relived his memories of fighting through pain after his accident. "It's working," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. The sequence responds to both physical trauma and emotional triggers. It's like their bodies are programmed to fight back when pushed to the limit. But not all the results were positive. In another test, Alex was placed in a high-stress scenario without any emotional support. Without the warmth of encouragement or hope, his progress slowed, and the sequence remained inactive. This confirmed what the team had suspected. Emotions played a critical role in activating the hidden code. As the experiments continued, the aliens began to see humanity in a new light. Humans weren't just surviving because of their biology. They were thriving because of their spirit. Their ability to feel deeply, to draw strength from love, hope, and determination, was what made them so extraordinary. One evening, as the team reviewed the data, Cale voiced a thought that had been growing in his mind. What if this isn't just about healing? What if the sequence is part of something bigger, a way for humans to evolve further? Joran frowned. "You mean, becoming more than human?" "Maybe," Cale replied. "Or maybe it's already happening. Look at how far they've come as a species. They've faced wars, diseases, disasters. And yet, here they are, still pushing forward." Lyra stared at the screen, her glowing eyes reflecting the faint light of the monitors. "If we can understand this fully, we could help other species too. Imagine being able to share this gift with others." Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. "Don't get ahead of yourselves. We're playing with forces we don't fully understand. Activating this sequence artificially could have consequences we can't predict." Her warning lingered in the room, tempering the team's excitement with a sense of responsibility. They were standing on the edge of a great discovery, but the path ahead was uncertain. For now, they focused on learning as much as they could, knowing that every answer brought them closer to understanding the incredible resilience of humanity. The team's curiosity deepened as they continued their research. Each new discovery brought more questions than answers, and the aliens found themselves spending long hours in the lab, analyzing data and debating theories. One evening, while reviewing old texts and records, Cale stumbled upon something unusual: references to ancient myths about immortality scattered across human cultures. These stories spoke of gods who could regenerate, heroes who defied death, and magical elixirs that granted eternal life. "Look at this," Cale said, his voice tinged with excitement as he showed Lyra and Joran a faded illustration from an old book. It depicted a glowing figure surrounded by symbols of healing and renewal. Humans have been fascinated by survival for thousands of years. Maybe these myths are more than just stories. Lyra leaned closer, her luminous eyes scanning the image. "You think there's truth behind them? That humans might have evolved some kind of biological mechanism inspired by these legends?" "It's possible," Cale replied. "Legends often start with real events or observations. What if humanity's resilience isn't just random? What if it's part of their evolution?" Joran tapped his fingers against the table thoughtfully. "If we're right, then humans didn't just survive. They adapted. Their bodies developed ways to heal faster, to fight harder, because they faced so much danger throughout history. To explore this idea further, the team decided to interview more survivors of traumatic events. They wanted to see if there were common threads in their experiences, patterns that might point to an underlying biological process. With Dr. Emily Carter's help, they reached out to Rachel Meyer again, along with several others who had overcome incredible odds. One of these individuals was Marcus Hale, a man in his 50s who had survived a plane crash decades earlier. When asked how he managed to pull through, Marcus shrugged and said, "I don't know. I just kept going. Even when things looked hopeless, I felt like something inside me wouldn't let me quit." Another survivor, a young woman named Clara, described a similar sensation during her battle with leukemia. "There were days when I felt like giving up," she admitted. "But then I'd feel this warmth, this strange energy running through me. It made me believe I could beat it." These accounts reinforced the team's growing suspicion that humans possessed a hidden strength within them, a force that went beyond simple biology. But what exactly was it? Was it purely emotional, or was there something physical driving it? Back at the lab, Joran proposed a bold experiment. What if we try to isolate whatever is causing this effect? If humans have some kind of dormant healing mechanism, maybe we can activate it under controlled conditions. Cale nodded slowly. "It's risky, but worth trying. We need to proceed carefully, though. We don't want to harm anyone." With Dr. Carter's cautious approval, the team began preparing for the next phase of their study. They gathered samples of human tissue and ran detailed analyses, searching for any anomalies in the DNA. Late one night, as the others rested, Joran stayed behind to review the latest batch of results. His eyes widened as he spotted something unusual, a fragment of genetic code that didn't match anything in the standard human genome. "Guys," he called out, his voice trembling with excitement. "Come look at this." Cale and Lyra rushed over, peering at the screen. The sequence was small but distinct, almost like a hidden message buried deep within the genetic material. It seemed to be inactive in most people, but in certain cases, like those of Rachel, Marcus, and Clara, it appeared to switch on. "This could be it," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This might be the key to why humans won't die." For the first time since arriving on Earth, the aliens felt they were close to unraveling the mystery. Yet, as they stared at the glowing lines of code on the screen, a sense of unease settled over them. Discovering the secret was one thing, but understanding its implications was another matter entirely. Lyra spent her mornings at the hospital, watching doctors and nurses move quickly between rooms. The air smelled of disinfectant, and the constant hum of machines filled the halls. She found herself drawn to the stories of the patients, each one unique yet connected by their ability to endure hardships that would have defeated most other species. One particular case caught her attention, a woman named Rachel Meyer, who had survived a house fire years ago. Her recovery had been nothing short of miraculous. Rachel sat in a small room with Lyra, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She was in her mid-30s now, but faint scars still marked her arms and neck. Lyra's large, glowing eyes studied her carefully as she asked, "Can you tell me what happened after the fire? How did you recover so well?" Rachel hesitated for a moment, then began speaking softly. "It was hard. I remember waking up in the hospital, feeling like my whole body was on fire. But there was this warmth inside me, like something was pushing me to keep going. It felt strange, like my body knew what to do even when I didn't." Lyra scribbled notes furiously, her pen moving across the page in sharp, quick strokes. "Warmth? Can you describe it more?" "It wasn't just physical," Rachel continued. "It was deeper, almost like a voice telling me not to give up. Does that sound crazy?" "No," Lyra replied gently. "Not at all. Your words are very helpful." Back at the lab, Lyra shared Rachel's story with Cale and Joran. They listened intently, their expressions thoughtful. "This warmth," she described, "it could be related to their healing process," Joran suggested. Maybe humans have some kind of internal mechanism we haven't discovered yet. Cale nodded. Or maybe it's tied to their emotions. Humans seem to draw strength from feelings like hope and determination. To test this idea, the team decided to conduct experiments. With Dr. Emily Carter's help, they recruited volunteers, including Alex, a firefighter recovering from severe burns, and Sophie, a young woman who had beaten cancer. The aliens set up a series of controlled tests designed to measure how emotional stimuli affected physical recovery. In one experiment, Alex was placed in a simulated stressful situation while being exposed to images of his family smiling and cheering him on. Monitors tracked his heart rate, stress levels, and even changes in his skin tissue. To everyone's surprise, Alex showed significant improvement in his condition during these sessions. His wounds healed faster, and his overall mood improved dramatically. Sophie's results were equally impressive. When she listened to recordings of loved ones offering encouragement, her immune system responded more actively, and her energy levels increased noticeably. Joran couldn't contain his excitement. This is incredible. Their bodies respond directly to positive emotions. It's like their minds are working together with their biology. But not all the tests went smoothly. In another trial, Alex was exposed to negative stimuli, images of destruction and recordings of harsh criticism. His progress slowed, and he reported feeling physically weaker. The contrast was stark, leaving the team with a new understanding of how deeply intertwined human emotions and health truly were. Dr. Carter watched the experiments unfold with a mix of fascination and concern. "You're onto something big here," she said one evening as the team reviewed the data. "But be careful. Emotions are powerful, and messing with them could have unintended consequences." Cale glanced at her, his expression serious. "We know, Doctor. But if we can understand this connection, we might unlock the secret to why humans are so resilient." As the days passed, the aliens grew more confident in their hypothesis. Humans weren't just surviving because of their biology. They were thriving because of their spirit. Their emotions acted as a bridge between mind and body, fueling their ability to overcome even the toughest challenges. For Cale, Lyra, and Joran, this revelation was both inspiring and humbling. They were beginning to see humanity not as fragile beings, but as survivors with an unbreakable will to live. The spaceship descended silently through the clouds, its sleek metallic surface reflecting the pale light of the Earth's sun. Inside, 3 alien medical students, Cale, Lyra, and Joran, sat nervously in their seats, their large, luminous eyes fixed on the view outside the window. For years, they had studied the reports about humanity, a species that seemed so fragile yet bafflingly resilient. Now they were finally here, on Earth, ready to uncover one of the universe's greatest mysteries: why humans simply refuse to die. The ship landed smoothly at a small research station, located just outside Chicago. The air was crisp, and the ground beneath them smelled strange, a mix of soil, grass, and something faintly metallic. As they stepped out, their tall, slender forms draped in simple gray uniforms, they were greeted by Dr. Emily Carter, a human woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She extended her hand in greeting, though the gesture puzzled the aliens momentarily before they mimicked it awkwardly. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I'll be your guide during your stay here. We've prepared everything you need for your study." Cale, the most curious of the trio, tilted his head slightly as he spoke. His voice sounded soft and melodic, almost musical. "Thank you, Dr. Carter. We are eager to begin our observations. Humans, they are quite fascinating." Emily chuckled lightly. "Fascinating. Most people don't think of themselves that way. But I suppose coming from where you do, we must seem pretty odd." Over the next few days, the aliens settled into their new surroundings. They spent hours observing patients at a nearby hospital, watching surgeries, reading medical records, and asking endless questions. It didn't take long for Cale to notice something unusual. A young man named Daniel had been brought in after a serious car accident. His injuries were severe, broken bones, internal bleeding, but within weeks, he was walking again, laughing with his family, as if nothing had happened. "How is this possible?" Cale asked Emily one evening as they reviewed Daniel's case file. "His body should not have healed so quickly. Even with advanced medicine, this level of recovery is extraordinary." Emily shrugged. "Humans are tough. Maybe it's luck. Maybe it's something else. We don't fully understand it ourselves." Lyra, who had been quietly listening, leaned forward. Her skin shimmered faintly in the artificial light of the lab. "But there must be a reason. A biological mechanism, perhaps. Something in their DNA." Joran nodded thoughtfully. "If we can identify what makes them so resilient, it could help other species too. Imagine the possibilities." Their excitement grew as they delved deeper into their research. They examined blood samples under microscopes, ran simulations on computers, and even interviewed survivors of traumatic events. Each discovery led to more questions. Why did some humans recover faster than others? What role did emotions play in healing? And most importantly, could this resilience be replicated or enhanced? As the days passed, the aliens found themselves drawn to the complexity of human life. Despite their physical fragility, humans displayed an incredible will to survive. They fought against disease, injury, and despair with a determination that left Cale, Lyra, and Joran awestruck. One evening, as they sat together in the lab, reviewing notes and discussing theories, Cale voiced what all of them were thinking. "There is something special about humans, something beyond biology. Perhaps that is why they won't die, not because of their bodies, but because of their spirit." The others fell silent, contemplating his words. Whatever the answer was, they knew they were only beginning to scratch the surface of humanity's enduring mystery.